Look at how perfectly curled his hair is, as real Louis wears a necklace now. Dream Louis does not. They're wearing the same silk outfit from the toilet clip. On a closer look, I think this might be Akasha too. Lestat's story is not just his own. It's actually heavily intertwined with many of the characters we already know and some very interesting characters we're about to be introduced to. So ahead of the Vampire Lestat, let's go through everything we know so far about what's coming, and my theories on the parts of Lestat's story we'll get to see. Welcome to my channel, my name's Bissy, and I have no idea if any of my predictions will actually happen, but I have read the book, so just in case, please take this as your spoiler warning. With that being said, let's get into the video. We're definitely heading back to the 18th century as we see Lestat as a child. He is often sad throughout his childhood, but he looks particularly melancholy here. I wonder if this is after he is dragged back from the monastery by his brothers. He tells us about this experience in Season 1, Episode 1 of Interview with the Vampire. Lestat's father really was an awful man, and we see a tiny glimpse of him here. A small detail is that in the book, he was actually blind, but he seems to have his sight in this clip. We also see a blink and you'll miss it clip of Lestat's brothers beating him up. His brothers were also awful, and especially awful to him. I wonder if this beating is after they drag him back from his time with the acting troupe, or just another of the routine beatings he used to get from them regularly. We see Lestat heading out for a ride, followed closely by his beloved bull mastiff. He looks like a beautiful dog, and Lestat actually had a number of animals that he loved dearly at this time. As a human, animals formed a really important part of his life. It looks like he could be heading out to hunt, and I wonder if this is the famous hunt that gained him the title of Wolf Killer. We get a shot of Lestat pointing his flint-off rifle at somebody. It looks like he's at home, so it could be one of his brothers or his father. This could be the confrontation before he leaves for good. As well as the dogs and the horse, the rifle was bought for him by his beloved mother. Speaking of Lestat's mother, we got our first look at Gabrielle. Gabrielle was from Naples and married into French nobility, Lestat's father, the Marquis of the Auvergne. She favours Lestat over his brothers and hates the way her husband and her sons treat him. This is what they could be showing us here in this shot. Lestat turns her in the 18th century, and they spend many years together, just the two of them, travelling the world. We see Gabrielle jumping on Lestat in this shot, but does it mean we'll get to see their travels? Or is Gabrielle learning how to use her powers? She definitely becomes an incredibly powerful vampire. Looking at this shot again, I realise that this might not actually be Lestat. It may be one of his brothers, as the hair is just that little bit longer than Lestat's at this time. We're also showing Gabrielle and Lestat in present day together, where Lestat is wearing a really nice fur-lined jacket. I wonder if he has reworked his famous cloak that was lined with wolf fur. Gabrielle left him many years before he moved to America and meets Louis. So my question is, if she is at the concert and accompanies him to this club, when and how do they reconnect? The cloak, of course, was given to Lestat by Nikki and his father back in the 18th century, and we see Nikki seemingly freaking out about something in that time period. But we also see what looks like an imaginary version or dream version of Nikki, as he is in what looks like to be a modern setting. We also see Nikki standing next to who could be his father. But this is Nikki after he has been turned. You can tell by his nails and his eyes. But we'll see. Don't worry, there's more about Nikki to come. But speaking of outfits, we see Lestat wearing a really nice top whilst on a party bus. It's actually the same gilet and top he's wearing when he is walking down the hallway with Akasha. Yes, this means we have confirmation that we'll be meeting Akasha. And they look pretty cozy, don't you think? The fiery passion, the music, what Akasha sees in Lestat, what she saw all those centuries ago, Akasha's plan for humanity, and Lestat's intended role in said plan are all up for grabs, I hope. You'll notice that this is Lestat's crew carrying what looks like a coffin. You can tell by the swallow symbol on the back of this man's jacket. But we then see Lestat's head being dragged along the wall. This is the same corridor he was walking down with Akasha. We can tell by the heart at the end of the hall. He's also wearing the same silk outfit from the toilet clip, and this clip of him dancing. I can also see someone walking in front of them. I wonder who that is. Kind of looks like Jasper. I don't think this is all we see of Akasha in this trailer though. In this shot, we see somebody laying on the floor of what looks like Lestat's apartment or his hotel suite. On a closer look, I think this might be Akasha too. What do you think? Now, Lestat is definitely seeing things this season. We see what looks like fans of Lelio backstage. I think this might be Lestat remembering or having visions of the last time he was adored by the public like this. He played the part of Lelio in Paris. That's why we get 18th century people in what looks like a modern setting. We also see an imaginary version of Claudia. I don't know what that wound is on her hand. And sadly, this is the only clip we get of her in this trailer, but I'm so glad she is going to feature in Lestat's story. Magnus sits down with Lestat at a dining table. I don't know if this is real or not real, but if it is real, it shows that Magnus is going to at least speak with Lestat a little before he throws himself in the fire, and we get a definite imaginary version of him at Lestat's concert. Lestat also has visions of Louis, just like Louis had Dreamstat. We see this imaginary version of Louis at Lestat's concert here, and we also see Lestat singing to Dream Louis in the recording studio. This is the 1910 to 1940s version of him. We can tell the difference between Dream Louis and Real Louis, as Real Louis wears a necklace now. Dream Louis does not. Real Louis also seems to confront Bruce. That's Louis' shoulder right there looking down at Bruce. He's wearing the same vest in both shots. Bruce and a lot of the other vampires never knew what Louis actually looked like, and Louis could have orchestrated a scenario that got him and Bruce alone, as Bruce does not look very pleased in this shot. Does Louis kill Bruce? I don't know, but there is a massive amount of blood spatter that covers Louis' face in this shot. You can see that Louis is wearing the same vest as the shot of him standing over Bruce. And in my opinion, it'll be nothing less than he deserves for what he did to Claudia. I think we'll get Louis and Lestat's reconciliation too. We'll see them walking together. We know it's the real Louis because of his necklace. This could be on the way to the show. They leave the concert together in the book too, and I wonder if the car crash is after the concert, as it looks like someone is in the back. There is definitely someone grabbing Lestat from the back seat though. Now, I really want to talk about Daniel. Daniel's looks are looking luscious nowadays. I think Daniel's living his best immortal life at the moment. First, we had the leather jackets. Now, look at how perfectly curled his hair is. The dark gift takes all forms, and the gift of perfect hair is worth it, I would say. The Vampire Lestat is going to be a documentary, unlike the book where it was a memoir that accompanied his album. The copy of Interview with the Vampire that Daniel holds up to Louis is actually Lestat's copy. Lestat finds out about the book from his bandmates and devours it, and I can't believe we got to see some of his notes. I hope we get to see more. Back to Daniel, I really want to know who was in the toilet with him. Is it the Talamasca? Or is it somebody from the documentary crew? Or is it something more sinister? We also see the film crew at the concert, so whatever is about to happen there will be caught on camera, as well as everyone else's phones. Now, lamp and fern. Lestat sits down on a set with an iPad and a fake backdrop. He and Daniel seem to be laughing as he sits down, so it's not a completely adversarial relationship. Lestat also looks like he's directing his fern and lamp comment to the man and a woman at the back of the room, not Daniel. So I wonder, are they Lestat's team or just somebody for him to boss about? It also looks like Armand gets an interview of his own in America. Now we know that Louis makes it to America, but is Armand following Louis and Daniel? And whilst we're talking about Armand, we get a huge hint about Armand's part in Nikki's end in season 2, episode 7, and we see that they are going to show that Armand has indeed cut off Nikki's hands. Well, it looks like one hand in this shot. Lestat never actually sees Armand cutting off Nikki's hands, or sees Nikki without them. It's particularly cruel, as playing the violin is all Nikki really has at that point. Lestat has left him. He has left his family to go to Paris with Lestat, and he is no longer human. Lestat learns of this after the fact, and this must be Lestat's vision of Nikki, as he is also in a modern setting. And speaking of Armand's cruelty, let's talk about the scars on Lestat's chest and ribs. Now, Lestat actually goes to Armand for help, and Armand refuses to help him by giving him some of his ancient blood after Louis and Claudia's attempt on his life. So he may not have helped Lestat fully. And granted, Lestat refused to take Armand with him when he and Gabrielle left the Theatre de Vampire in the 1700s. And he did throw him off the roof. I sense a pattern here. But this could explain why Lestat, a very powerful vampire, has scars like this all over his body. We see Lestat's disdain for Armand, the gremlin as he calls him, during his meeting with Louis. Lestat refers to himself when he says, "He did not direct a play and come home canoodling with one of its victims, did he? Who did that, I wonder? Repeat the name." It's not just because Louis left with him after the play. No, it's to do with Nikki and Armand's refusal to help Lestat after what Louis and Claudia did to him. There's a whole lot of history with these two. Whilst we're at the meeting, or is it mediation, is Lestat suing Louis for defamation for what he said in an interview with the vampire? Or are they splitting their shared assets from the 30 years they spent together? Lestat's advocate says, let's circle back to the particulars. So the meeting is not specifically about Armand. So what are the particulars? Particulars of what? Both Louis and Armand's lawyers or advocates have iPads in front of them. And it looks like both of their lawyers are looking at the same thing. But I can't tell exactly what it says. Not yet anyway. And finally, there are some other details I noticed that didn't quite fit into any of the above groups, but I didn't want to leave them out. So, we get the first shot of Lestat's entire band. We've got Tough Cookie, the keyboardist, Salamander on bass, Alex on guitar, and Larry on drums. Tough Cookie's also got bite marks on her neck in this shot, and there's this lady on the drums too. We see DJ Sam in his helmet. It's confirmed in Season 2, Episode 8, that he was the Talamasca's guy inside the Paris Coven. I really hope that we get to hear what he has to say, especially about the trial. Speaking of the Talamasca, it's confirmed that real Rashid got out okay, and I'm so pleased about it. Now, let's not name what we can see Lestat dusting off of someone's face here, okay? We see Lestat being revived with blood after being taken out of the ground. But by who? Could it be Armand or Marius? Who digs him out? We know he went to ground a couple of times. Once, soon after he was made, less than 100 years, which then leads to him meeting Marius. Then the second time in 1808, after he finds out about Nikki's death, which then leads him to travel to America. Bruce may actually be going by Killer now, a name that Claudia gave him in the show. Also, we know that Baby Jenks has been cast, so maybe the entire Fang Gang will make an appearance. Is this Baby Jenks? It looks like it could be. I wonder just how much we'll get of her story, as Bruce, i.e. Killer, was the one who changed her in the books, but we can see Lestat feeding on her here. I wonder. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying making these videos, so if you're enjoying watching them, please do think about subscribing and also joining me in overthinking in the comments. I seriously can't wait for the Vampire Lestat to start, and I know a lot of you are waiting just as impatiently as I am. So, in the meantime, let's go on this ride together. Thank you. Bye.